Diane, and made our committee so really excited by doing something for her. And we thought about all kinds of things. A gold coin, maybe, you know. We tried to think of something that more people would become aware of her and what she has done. So a plaque we thought might be good at an Amtrak station that she helped so much to promote. So that's one of the main reasons that we chose, and we were inspired to honor her. I was telling a couple of you, several of the calls I've heard from the last couple of days, people who said, you know, I never met Diane personally. I knew her primarily through her emails. And a couple of them said, well, she really is nice in person. You betcha she is, you know. But I came across one of the things that she used to like to put little quotations at the bottom of a lot of her emails. And one that I'd written down was this: don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive. And then do that. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. End quote. Howard Thurman, a theologian and author, had those words. Many people wanted to know about who Diane is. And the committee met over a period of 3 months, I think, trying to work out what we might put on the plaque. And after the first month, the plaque would have been about this tall and that wide. So condensing it was a problem. But words that the friends and colleagues have used, such as Diane is passionate. You can think of the things that she's passionate about. Soft-spoken for many of us. But her husband said, well, not when she comes home. So when she wants to let off steam, I cover my ears. And she has a way to express herself in that way as well. She could, however, bring calm. And one of the things I brought out at her memorial service was the ability to kind of smooth over things that otherwise might have been, at some point, catastrophic. But she was able to make the bridge into something that would bring people together rather than divide, bring people to an understanding of each other, inspiring, exciting even. She could be excited about things very much. She had a sense of humor, sometimes unexpected, and you wouldn't realize it. Tom and I were saying, she saw us bringing all these chairs down the elevator, she would have been giggling about that. And then she would have picked up a chair and brought it down with us, I think. She was a great organizer. And I think everybody we talked to said she was deeply rooted in her faith. And I was privileged to be with her at 3 or 4 different church services, and we'd sing the hymns together. And she knew them without even looking. That was part of what she was. And I think more important, she cared about people. So that's part of what I had to say, and what the committee had to say, and that's why we decided on a plaque. I'm going to show you a facsimile of the plaque, and you can examine it later. And you can imagine what it will be like when it's up on the wall. And we kind of condensed some of the thoughts we had by this. In commemoration of the life and contributions of Diane Reamer, a lifetime dedicated to helping people have better lives and championing proposals to meet the transportation needs of Northwest Ohio and Southeast Michigan. Presented by the Organizing Committee, National Train Day Toledo, May 11th, 2022. That's today. I'd like to begin, if you don't mind, would you want to come up here, Dave? Yeah. The whole idea of Train Day, National Train Day, began when 3 people got together, Diane and me And this fellow I call Brother Dave comes to us from Michigan now. He lives up at,
Roselle.
Yeah, Roselle, in Michigan. Retired from Amtrak. He was the head agent here for years. Station manager for these stations. So I welcome Dave, and maybe he'd like to say a word or two.
I just want to say, as far as Diane, I mean, she was so helpful, so very, very helpful. Not only with the train day organization, but any questions I had, anything with Amtrak that I needed, her advice or her help, she was always there. So I'm really glad that whoever came up with this idea that they're doing this to honor her. I think it's a wonderful thing. So she'll be missed. Thank you.
The three of us are from the organization for women named Zonta. And Diane was such a driving force in that organization. I only had the opportunity to know her for a few years. And I must admit how much I loved her intelligence, her integrity, and her enthusiasm. She was a remarkable woman, and I feel so lucky to have known her.
Well, I knew her, first met her through Teamacog when you were over at Davisville, and then continued over here. I worked with different people, but Diane, since she was a woman, I tried to get her into our organization, because at that time, women only had women organizations. They couldn't join Rotary or something else. So she said, I'm too busy, but maybe one of these days. And so finally, she did join our group, which was wonderful, because once she's committed to something, as you all know, she's committed. And that's all the things that Sue said, all things that have been said about Diane. But she's committed, and she committed to our organization, still working. And then a couple years later, she retired from Teamacog. But her influence was felt through Toledo, through the county, and our group. So thank you for honoring her.
Yes, we're delighted. Thank you.
My name's Ed Snyder. I've been on the executive committee of Teamacog for over 30 years. I got to know Diane through that, starting with Rails to Trails and then transitioning into National Train Day. One of the words that I have used in my career in dealing with Teamacog, and I was originally a township trustee, which is how I got trained at Teamacog, was public service. And Diane always was a public servant. The Bible says, you mentioned faith, Bill, that a leader must be a servant of all. And by that definition, Diane was indeed a leader because she was always a servant with the public in the forefront. Rails to Trails, National Train Day, anything she put her hand to. I'm biased. I only dealt with her predominantly on National Train Day toward the end of her career and Rails to Trails at the beginning. So that's some dealing with general life transportation. But like has been said, she always put her all into it. But number one, she was a servant and a public servant at that. And that's why this is especially appropriate. I'm going to take that opportunity to swipe my little forum while I'm here. So,
but walking in here, I see how small the world is when I see so many people that I know through other connections. She was an amazing woman, a woman of faith. Found out we were both Methodists and had a lot of friends in common through that. But knowing Diane, and when she saw the end of the line, she said, would you be willing to say some nice things about me? That's the very least I can do for a woman who has done so much for this community and especially the rail advocacy community.
I didn't tend to get up here and speak. I didn't plan to be emotional. At some time in the 1990s, I became a volunteer for the Interfaith Blood Drive, in which Diane was a part of. And a few years later, she and I were co-chairmen of the Interfaith Blood Drive until it came to a point where we couldn't really do it. And this is a blood drive that included all 7 interfaiths, religious interfaiths that was at the Lutheran Church on Monroe Street. So in 2009, when I retired, I ran into Diane and she said, "Would you like to be a volunteer at Team Akag?" And I said, "Well, I don't know." She gave me listed 3 different committees to be in Team Akag. So I said, "Well, I'll take the public transit passenger rail just to see what it's like." So I started in 2009 at Team Akag being a volunteer. Well, because I was interested in rail and talked about rail events at the public transit, these guys twisted my arm to come to a NOPRA meeting. So I went to NOPRA and became a member of NOPRA. And then National Transit came. So I've been a volunteer for NOPRA and National Train Day. Well, over time, I mean, a couple years ago before COVID hit, I was on 7 different committees for Team Akag because I was a volunteer trying to help this region become a much better region for public transit for everybody. It's not just for roads and stuff, but for everybody. So Diane has been a friend, a co-worker, a challenger, and everything that somebody would want and somebody to look up to. And we're going to miss her. I really miss her. And thank you.
Well, my name's Dorothy Shorter, and I met Diane Reamer Evans in the 1970s when I started going to Central United Methodist Church. So we were friends before Ian and Sarah Kate were born, but the 3 of us, I'll let them talk.
Oh, no, you can talk.
But after our church kind of, like most churches, kind of went by the wayside, we still all stuck together. We ended up at Monroe Street Church. But she's always been a friend, and we get together once a month, all of us, and we have our girls' circle, we call it. And it's more like a vent session so that we can get all the crap off our brains so that we can function when we go back home. But I have to share one funny story with her. My nephew has autism. And when my sister passed away when he was 6 years old, my husband and I took up the gauntlet, to take care of him so that he wouldn't be just a early child. And she saw how stressful that was at the beginning, and she offered to keep him for me one Saturday. And I kept saying, "Diane, I don't think you want to do this because he's alive." She goes, no, I can do this. Diane, I can do this. And I said, all right. I said, well, this is where I'll be. I'll be here at this time, and if it gets too much for you, I said, you come and find me. Well, I went where I was going, and about half an hour into it, she showed up, and she looked at me, and she goes, "You were right. My house isn't Herbie-proof." And she goes, "And I think he needs to be with you." But she goes, "I'm not giving up." She goes, "I just can't do it anymore the rest of this day." But she tried.
No one could say no to Diane, except for me. If I told her no, she respected that, because we were a lot alike. But she said to me, "I need you to take all these notes for my funeral and for what I want for my dinner and who I want to be there and who I want to speak and what songs I want." And so on her deathbed, I had pen and paper taking down all the notes of what Diane wanted, because she knew that whatever she told me to do, that I was like her, that I would make sure that what she wanted would get done. And I miss her so much.
We've known each other forever. We've raised each other's kids. She's always challenged us, always been a role model for us, and we do miss her here.
So I was Diane's pastor twice. In the early days when I was pastor at Central United Methodist, and then toward the end here at Monroe Street, where I currently serve as pastor. Diane grabbed me and got me on the transportation committee. I don't remember what year it was. I don't know if it was for 2020 or 2030. I don't remember anymore. So Diane got me involved in transportation stuff, even though that wasn't particularly my field. But I have been serving as executive director of Toledo Area Ministries, and she wanted somebody on the committee that had social justice focus, which was about who she was. And so I really appreciated the opportunity to continually say, well, what about public transportation? when the trucking companies were focused on roads and all those other kinds of things. Diane was a social justice person, and she really, through her faith and through her church, really pushed those kind of issues. Up until the very end, she was pushing. I can't remember what the issue was, and we were kind of debating whether we were going to go forward with it or not, and Diane said, yeah, you're going to do it. And, so she was pretty tenacious when she set her mind to something. As mentioned, she kept working on the interfaith blood drive through many, many years, and so just a great person, and really had a profound impact on Toledo and Northwest Ohio.
3 words that I would use to define Diane: advocate, passion, and dedication. Anything she put her mind to, she was going to do it. If she said she was going to do something, she was fully dedicated to it. She would give it everything she had, and she was an advocate for everything. Anything she believed in, she would go at it as hard as she could go, and made sure that it was as good as she could possibly make it. Train Day is a great example of that. She put so much effort into Train Day. All the events that we did at work, whether it was Train Day, we had another series of events that Train Day sort of spun off of it. We called it Bebop, bike bus or pool pedestrian. I think some of you remember that. But one of the events in there was the Train Day portion of it, which then kind of became National Train Day. And everything, all the events for each of the days, she was working on that thing like crazy until it was as good as she could make it. She was always on the phone. You mentioned, if she'd ask you to do something, she was hard to say no to. She was great at getting volunteers for things. If we needed speakers, she's the one to go to. She could twist people's arms, and in the end, they would thank her for it. So she was fantastic at that. And it's hard to replace that type of passion, dedication, and advocacy function that Diane performed for us. We're still looking to truly fill that, and I doubt we ever will. So, I'm truly appreciative that we have a plaque that we can hang up on the wall, and people can come into this train station and see the work that she had performed for us, and get a sense of who she was. Even if they may not have known her, she can see some of the work that she produced and the benefit that she gave to our region. So,
This was in August of 19. As you know, she passed in October. And even then, as has been said, she was still working on Train Day and other things. And we didn't quite have the sense of how sick she was at that point. And so, after talking about some Train Day things with Bill, thinking about next year's Train Day, she said, "Not doing very well. Cancer is catching up to me. Chemo not effective. Between you and Tom, could you work out a 1 or 2 minute tribute to my efforts with Team ACOG and Train Day to championship transportation choices like rail, public transit, and bikeways, to be presented eventually at a memorial service?" And then she puts a smiley face and says, "Oh, and okay to mention what a fine human being I was." Bill said, "You sound pretty resigned. I'd been thinking you would do that for me. I figure tributes to you will run way over 2 minutes. I will be there for you. Don't rush unless you must or want to." And Diane said, "I'm resigned, but in no hurry. Thanks for being there, and thank all of you for being here today."